Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the English podcast with Dr. Maqsood Azeemi, which was held on 12 December 2025.
We're so glad you can join us for another deep dive.
Today, we're unpacking a really profound set of sources, all based on the teachings of Dr. Maqsood Azeemi. And our mission, really, is to get to the heart of a universal challenge in spiritual progress: focus.
That's right. Concentration, or Tawajah. The sources you shared detail a struggle that I think everyone can relate to.
Oh, absolutely. The difficulty of just maintaining mental concentration during spiritual practice, taking hours just to settle the mind.
And we're going to give you Dr. Saab's immediate, very practical techniques for that. But then we're going to zoom out.
Way out. We're talking about the metaphysical architecture behind our thoughts, behind creation itself.
It's a huge scope. We'll start with that cognitive barrier, the struggle to focus, and introduce a pretty radical technique, a 21-day free writing exercise.
An inner cleansing, basically. And from there, we dive into the philosophical core. How do you distinguish divine guidance, Ilham, from all the other noise?
The noise from the environment, from our own ego, and crucially, the distortion that's introduced by Shaitan.
And we'll wrap up by looking at Qalandar Baba Alia's framework for reality itself.
How creation is defined by purpose and demands, and even touch on Allama Iqbal's powerful insight on time and space.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right where the listener is feeling the most friction, that struggle to maintain a visualization during meditation, or Muraqaba.
The listener mentioned taking hours sometimes.
Hours, just to get a clear mental picture, specifically of Tawajah Shamsuddin Azeemi, is the Murshad of Dr. Saab. So why is the mind so resistant when we try to force it like that?
Well, Dr. Saab gives a really logical reason for this, and it's not what you'd think. It's not that the mind is bad at focusing.
It's not, because it certainly feels that way sometimes.
Not at all. The mind is actually brilliant at it. Think about it. If I say the word fan to you,
an image pops into my head instantly.
Instantly. So the mind wants to focus. The real issue is what Dr. Saab calls the foundational law of attention.
Okay, the law of attention. What does that law state?
He emphasizes this fundamental rule. Human attention, or Tawajah, has a hard limitation. It's madud.
Meaning it can only process one thing at a time.
One single object at a time. When you're listening to a lecture, your mind is busy processing those words. But when you sit for tasawwur, for visualization, you're essentially creating a mental vacuum.
And nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. Every scattered thought, every worry, every to-do list just rushes in to fill that void. And that's the static, the noise you experience.
So if the mind can only hold one thing, trying to hold a single static image, well, it's like setting yourself up for failure. You're constantly fighting off competitors for that one spot.
You're competing with your own internal hard drive. And that's where Dr. Saab's technique is just so brilliant. He suggests a pivot.
A pivot away from sheer willpower.
A pivot away from the visual and toward the cognitive. He says instead of trying to hold the external image of Tawajah Shamsuddin Azeemi, is the Murshad of Dr. Saab, you shift your focus. You shift inward to a deep analytical task.
Sure.
You start analyzing the Murshad's thought process.
Analyzing how he thinks. That is fascinating.
Yes. The new focus becomes a question. How does he view the world? What is his tarzi fikr, his style of thinking?
That's not a passive task. That's active.
It completely monopolizes the mind. It demands so much single-point attention that it achieves Artika's real concentration because there's literally no room left for anything else.
So the failure isn't the image, it's the intentionality or the lack of it. When the mind is just left loose, that's the gap.
That is the spiritual gap. And Dr. Saab is very clear about who fills that gap.
Hazrat Shaitan. He steps in to pull our attention left, right, up, and down.
That's the barrier of intentionality. If you are not actively, consciously, voluntarily directing your focus, the opposing force will. It's a law of nature.
And this connects to the whole purpose of life, doesn't it? Dr. Saab makes this incredible etymological link.
He does. He says the purpose is developing this very power of mental concentration in order to defeat Shaitan.
And he links defeat to the word feat. A feat is a trick, a performance.
Precisely. So defeating Shaitan isn't about some epic battle. It's about neutralizing his performance.
Seeing the trick for what it is.
You see the move before it even takes hold. You acknowledge that distracting thought, but you refuse to let it grab you.
You can't just destroy the thought, he says. That's impossible.
It's impossible. You have to skillfully redirect it. A thought pops up, and you just command yourself, no, I will not think this right now. Wait, let me finish this first. You note it, but you don't engage.
But, okay, what about that initial problem? The sheer volume, the internal chatter is so loud that you can't even get to that point. The mind feels overloaded.
Like a dam about to burst.
Mm.
And for that, Dr. Saab introduced a very specific practical technique for inner cleansing.
This is the 21-day free writing exercise.
Yes, a 3-week course correction, as he calls it, for a burdened consciousness.
And the instructions are very specific.
Very.
Yeah.
For half an hour, every single day, you sit down and you just write continuously. You don't censor a single thought. You don't judge it. You just let everything that comes to mind flow onto the paper.
You're basically opening the floodgates.
You are opening the dam, you're letting that pressure out, and establishing a flow of thoughts, maybe for the first time.
And why is that so critical for spiritual practice? Why does that uncensored writing help?
Because, as Dr. Saab points out, all that suppressed emotion, all those buried thoughts, that's the root of frustration, of depression.
And it's that suppressed stuff that jumps out the second you try to do any constructive inner work.
It's the first thing that comes up. So by deliberately letting it all out for 21 days, you achieve an inner peace, a kind of shant, a quiet.
And there's a vital final step. It's about privacy and disposal.
Right. The notebook has to be kept completely private. You need to feel totally free to write anything. And after the 21 days are up, you must read through the entire thing.
Why is reading it so important?
Because that act brings all the accumulated garbage of your consciousness, your cure, into sharp focus. You see the inventory of what you've been carrying.
And once you see it,
you understand the clutter. And then you have to ceremoniously dispose of it, burn it, tear it up, let it go.
That's the deep cleansing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we connect this principle back to just normal daily life? He talks about yaksui, or single-mindedness.
And he uses the simplest example, something our elders always told us: don't talk while you're eating.
Right.
That's the principle of yaksui. It means focusing entirely on one task at a time.
Yeah.
If you're doing one job and a thought about a second job pops up.
That's your mind creating confusion, an uljan.
That's it. And you have to treat that thought exactly the same way you treated the distraction during meditation.
You command it.
You command it to wait. You stop yourself, even verbally, and say, wait, let me deal with this first. He calls this combing out the confusions. It's how you bring order to your mental landscape.
This focus on order and clarity is a perfect bridge to the more philosophical core of all this. How do we distinguish what's real guidance from what's just noise? Dr. Saab lays out this sharp distinction between Wahi, Ilham, and just general thought, khayal.
Yes, and the terminology here is so vital. Wahi, or revelation, is God's direct, flawless message. It's technically reserved for the perfected intellects of the prophets.
Inubuwat.
That's it. Though Dr. Saab does point out that a form of Wahi occurs in nature, like the inspiration given to the honeybee. It's pre-programmed.
Okay, so that's Wahi. But Ilham is different. What's its specific function?
Ilham is also God's message, but it's received through an internal system. It's what we might call intuition or conscience, the zamir.
And its purpose is guidance.
Its specific function is to provide guidance hidayat by giving you foreknowledge of the results of an action.
The natai.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tells you immediately whether an action leans toward piety, taqwa, or toward transgression, fujur. It's an internal moral compass, a warning system.
So after those two, we have the huge general category of khayal, or thought, which Dr. Saab says is really just information being received. And he breaks this down into 4 sources.
That's right. The first source is divine, which is Ilham. Again, that is always related to the purpose of life, the Maqad Hayat.
Okay, so that's source 1.
The second is from the Nafs, the inner self. This is about your natural demands and urges, physical needs, mental needs, spiritual needs.
And the third source is the environment, the mahal.
Yes, that's all the external information coming in that creates desires. You see a billboard for food, you suddenly want that food. You see your neighbor's new curtains, you start thinking yours looks shabby.
And the fourth source, shaitan. He doesn't bring new information, does he?
No, and this is the most critical part. Shaitan's only role is to distort the information from the other 3 sources.
He's a corrupter.
Purely a corrupter. So you get a divine thought in Ilham to truly understand the Quran. Shaitan whispers and distorts it into merely reading the Quran without any meaning, just for the sake of ticking a box.
And what about distorting the nafs, our basic needs?
He introduces delay. A genuine need arises from the nafs to pray, and Shaitan distorts it by saying, oh, I'll pray later. I don't have wudu right now, it's too much effort. He uses laziness as a tool.
And the environmental distortion is something we see every day, isn't it? That example of creating malice is so powerful.
It's so common. You see someone smile in your direction, a neutral cue. Shaitan immediately strikes and distorts your interpretation. They're mocking me. And in that instant,
Bitterness, resentment.
kudarat, pure shaitanic influence, created out of thin air from a neutral event.
Which leads to Dr. Saab's absolutely critical point, which is that the old saying, the first thought is always divine. It's just wrong.
It's inaccurate and potentially dangerous. Because Dr. Saab insists you must assess every thought on its merit. You have to stop and ask, where did this come from? Is it about my purpose? Is it a basic need? Was it triggered by something I just saw? Or is it a negative distortion?
That critical assessment is mandatory. You can't just passively accept your thoughts.
Never. Okay, so moving from that self-assessment to a much wider cosmic understanding, Dr. Saab brings in Qalandar Baba Olia's definition of creation itself, takhliq.
And what is that unifying principle?
It's beautiful in its simplicity. Qalandar Baba Olia taught that creation, takhliq, is the name we give to the unification of two things: purpose, Maqsood, and demands, taqlaya.
When purpose and demands unite, creation happens.
That's it. And Dr. Saab's analogy of the car just clarifies it perfectly.
Right, the car.
A car's basically just space, an empty box.
Mm.
Its purpose is to transport things. But that purpose is absolutely unfulfilled unless all of its demands are met.
It needs petrol, oil, water, air.
Multiple kinds of oil, engine oil, gear oil, brake fluid, grease, acid for the battery. Only when every single one of those demands is met can the car move and fulfill its purpose.
And the human being is the exact same model. We have all these demands: physical, mental, spiritual.
And they all must be fulfilled to achieve our ultimate purpose of life.
Which Dr. Saab defines as knowing and understanding God.
Right. And he says this isn't just one step. It's a 5-stage developmental process. It begins with understanding God's word, then understanding what others have said about God.
Okay.
Third, you move to understanding God's works, the creation itself. And fourth, you go deeper to understand God's vast systems, the nizam, like the 12 functional systems within our own bodies.
And when you study those systems, what do you finally arrive at?
The 5th and final stage.
Yeah.
Understanding God's attributes, his sifat.
And this leads right into Qalandar Baba Alia's ultimate cosmic summary, the 3 entities.
The 3 entities introduced in the Quran: Zat, which is the ultimate self; Sifat, the attributes; and Kainat, the universe.
And the sources use a specific phrase for the attributes, qaim by Zat. What does that mean exactly? Are they separate or?
It means they are established by the self. They are entirely dependent on the Zat. The attributes are the tools, the means by which the ultimate self manifests and displays the universe. The Kainat is the display of the Zat using the Sifat.
That one sentence. It's the whole story.
The entire story of creation.
Okay, let's bring that cosmic understanding right back down to Earth. How does this help us manage, say, a frustrating work environment? When we feel forced to do a task we just resent.
Dr. Saab says the root problem there is a failure in handling, just handling the situation. And Qalandar Baba Olia's approach is the key.
He says the task itself is neutral.
Completely neutral.
Mm-hmm.
If you perform that difficult task out of compulsion, Mazburi, you transform it into a punishment, a saza.
Right.
But if you perform the exact same task with passion, with ownership, with a sense of joy, shak, it immediately becomes a reward, a jaza.
So the whole game is just the approach.
The entire psychological and spiritual outcome depends on nothing but your approach. It's an internal shift.
A shift from obligation to a voluntary contribution. Amazing. Okay, let's tackle this complex riddle from Allama Iqbal about time and space.
Oh, this is a deep one.
Kirtwi hai Zaman-o-Makan ki zinari nahai Zaman-o-Makan la ilaha illallah. Intellect is bound by time and space, but there's no time or space, only the oneness of God.
Right. So Dr. Saab breaks down how time and space, the maniyat and makaniyat even came to be. Our intellect, our kird, is completely bound by them. We can't think outside of them.
So when did they start?
They were created, he explains, at the exact moment that Allah willed to be understood. That moment of willing created when, which became time. And everything contained within that will became space.
So they are creations, and Iqbal's point is that if you truly accept La ilaha illallah,
then the limitations of these created things, time and space, just fall away. You transcend them.
and the power of that declaration, La ilaha illallah, hinges on really understanding the word ilah.
Yes. Dr. Saab says the common translation of ma'bud, or worshipped, is incomplete.
It's technically correct, but it misses the main point.
It misses the functional point. Dr. Saab clarifies that ilah really means hajat rawa, the fulfiller of needs.
The pre-Islamic Arabs knew Allah was the one to be worshipped, the ma'bud. They had names like Abdullah.
Of course. Their error wasn't in who to worship. Their error was in who they thought fulfilled their practical needs. They went to their deities, Lat, Uzza, Hubal for rain, for wealth, for children.
So the covenant La ilaha illallah is a radical declaration that there is only one fulfiller of needs.
Exactly. It redirects the heart from all secondary causes straight to the first cause.
Yeah.
And that error is still with us today, isn't it?
The idols have just changed shape.
Completely. Dr. Saab identifies the modern idols, the modern butt, as wealth, dalat, status, izzat, and fame, shorat.
Things we look to for fulfillment.
We treat them as the fulfiller of needs. And the message of all the prophets, all the enlightened ones, was constant. Stop looking outward. Look inward. Use these things as tools, by all means, but never, ever make them the purpose of your life.
Okay, on a more practical disciplinary note, we had a query about sleeping less. How does reducing sleep affect this grip of time and space?
Well, Dr. Seb clarified something important here. Sleep only loosens the grip of time and space. It doesn't end it. We still experience space in our dreams, for example.
So what's the primary benefit?
The primary benefit of that spiritual discipline is to increase willpower. Quavli Arati.
And there was a secondary benefit mentioned about a transfer of senses.
Yes, this is fascinating. Our senses alternate. We have waking, diurnal senses, and sleeping, nocturnal or dream senses. Normally, after about 12 to 14 hours of being awake, the dream senses are scheduled to take over.
But with spiritual training.
By remaining awake through that period with spiritual training, you can consciously and voluntarily transfer the abilities of those dream senses over to your waking state. It gives you an extra benefit, as he puts it, conscious control over faculties that are normally unconscious.
Wow. Let's tackle this final philosophical paradox, because it's a big one, the nafs. How can the nafs be both the source of evil, the nafs imara, and also the key to knowing God?
Dr. Saab says this isn't a contradiction, it's just a difference in terminology. We're using one word for two different things.
Okay, so break it down. What is the nafs imara?
That is the material, worldly facet of the self. Its defining characteristic is that it insists on its own will. Apni marzi karna, I want what I want.
And Dr. Saab equates that insistence on one's own will with the very essence of kufr, of denial.
He does, because you're placing your will above God's will. But the inner man, the true self that the prophet, peace be upon him, referred to, that's the spiritual core. That's the real you.
Which the nafsi lawama, the reproaching self, tries to protect.
Precisely. And just to round that out, the Quranic reference to the single self, the nafsi wahida,
Yes.
that refers to the original singular blueprint for all of creation, the first atom, the first tree. It originates from God's single mind and is programmed with the ability to multiply and evolve.
An incredible concept. Finally, let's just solidify this framework of knowledge. Dr. Saab confirms the teaching that material laws are just copies of spiritual laws. What does that mean for how we should study the world?
It means that every material rule you see, from systems of government to laws of commerce to biological processes, is just a copy of a higher spiritual law.
So if you study any material system deeply enough,
You find God's signs, his nishanian. You find the spiritual principle that is governing it. By mastering the material knowledge, the ilmi Hasooli, you can discover its spiritual root.
which brings us to Kalandar Baba Alia's 3 grades of knowledge.
The 3 grades needed to reach God. The foundation, as we said, is ilmi Hasooli, acquired knowledge. The material sciences, gained by effort.
And if you master that and seek its roots,
You may be granted the next level, ilmi Laduni, or divine, granted knowledge. This is knowledge about the underlying principles given directly by God.
and the highest form,
The highest is ilmi Huzoori, present knowledge. This is the ultimate. It's the knowledge of how all things are eternally present before God, in God's mind. To attain this is to understand the ultimate essence, the kun, of knowledge itself.
what an incredible journey. From a simple exercise to improve focus all the way to the very essence of knowledge in the mind of God. We are so, so grateful to our listener for sharing these profound teachings from Dr. Saab. The synthesis is just, it's incredibly valuable.
It really is. It forces you to constantly reevaluate everything. Which leads me to a final provocative thought for you to carry forward from all this.
Please.
Use Dr. Saab's framework and just examine your life. Reflect honestly on the distinction he made between your masad, your purpose, and your takazai, your demands. Are you successfully aligning your demands, your job, your wealth, your health, as tools to achieve your ultimate purpose of knowing God? Or have you, perhaps without realizing it, mistakenly elevated your demands into your ultimate purpose, thereby turning them into your own personal modern-day idols?
That is the essential question to carry with us. Thank you so much for spending this insightful time with us here on the Deep Dive. We really, truly hope this discussion has brought you some clarity and maybe a renewed sense of purpose on your own spiritual journey. If you found this valuable, please do share this deep dive with your friends and family. And of course, please subscribe, like, and comment to support our community. We offer our most sincere prayers and best wishes for your success in everything you do.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.